All right, today we are learning about perfect squares and perfect cubes. You may have actually heard of these before, and they are special types of exponents. Exponents tell you how many times you use the base as a factor in a multiplication problem. It changes one factor into many factors. So I like to think of that base as just the number, and the little number above is telling us how many times that number multiplies by itself. So the little number is called the exponent or the power. And the big number, or the number on the bottom, is called the base. So we talk about things that are perfect squares and perfect cubes, and your objective today is to understand why they are called perfect squares and perfect cubes, and to also memorize the first several. I'm going to show you some squares. So why are perfect squares called perfect squares, and why do we talk about 1 squared, 2 squared, 3 squared? Well, it actually comes because those were first referred to as the actual square. So here I have a square with an area of 1, and it has a side length of 1. So this is 1 squared, or 1 times 1, and it equals 1. Now here I have a square, so 2 squared, the side length is 2, and when I made a square out of it, it equals 4. And then I bet you can guess what 3 squared is. There's my side length of 3. My area, how many squares I have in there, there are 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then on this one, my area, so I have a side length of 4, and then my area is 16. So 4 squared equals 4 times 4, that's how you find the area of a square, is 16. Okay, so those are pretty easy. Let's look at our cubes. What the heck is a cube? Well, they look like this. If you play a lot of dice games, you're probably pretty familiar. Here we have 1 cubed, and it has a width, a length, and a height of 1. So its volume now, or the space it takes inside, is 1. And we use 1 to the little power of 3, and we call that 1 cubed because we're making a cube out of it. This one has 2 on its width, its length, and its height. So it'll be 2 cubed. Hey, look, there's the 2, there's the cube. How many blocks do you think are in there? I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and there's one behind that I can't see. There's 8. And if you multiply 2 times 2 times 2, you got 8. What do you think 3 cubed is? It's a little harder to count, but maybe you think, oh, this is a square and it has 9, and I see there will be 1, 2, 3 of them. So 9 times 3 is 27. And then 4 cubed, can you guess it? It's 64. Let's go ahead and look at that one a little closer. You can see that each side is 4, and you're going to have 16 in one block, and then 16 times 4 is 64, or 4 cubed equals 64. So that's why they're called squares and cubes, and I think it's a lot easier to say 1 squared rather than 1 to the power of 2. It's it's a little simpler. It's a few less words. So you can write that explanation here if you'd like. I'm going to go ahead and move on, and we're just going to write these down. I would recommend memorizing some of these perfect squares and perfect cubes. And I'm going to actually write out the multiplication problem for each one. I know that takes a while, but it helps me remember. 2 times 2 equals 4. 3 times 3 equals 9. And if you know your multiplication tables, you can just zoom right on through this part. 5 times 5 equals 25. But if you want to write what I'm writing down too, that's perfectly fine. If you get behind, feel free to pause the video. That's perfectly okay. Or you can take a screenshot and copy from that. 9 times 9 is 81. 10 times 10 is pretty easy because it's just a 1 with 2 zeros. 11 times 11 is 121. 12 times 12, 144. I was always really proud when I got all my multiplication tables memorized because I felt like I could do with such big numbers. 196. 15 times 15 is 225. And some of the things, as you're memorizing these, it might help you to know, like, multiplying by 15 won't end in an even number. So if you're trying to remember what 15 squared is, it's not 226. 324. And you can use your calculator. It's just that it's going to make it a lot easier. Oh, sorry. 19 times 19 is 361. It's going to make it a lot easier if you have these memorized, especially when you're trying to find square roots, which is where you're trying to find what this number is when given this number. Okay, our cubes are 3 times multiplied. 3 times 3 times 3 equals 27. 4 times 4 times 4 equals 64. We did all those ones already. What do you think 5 times 5 times 5 is? 125. With this one, I always think money. I'm always like, okay, 5 quarters, how much is that? This one's 216. 7 times 7 times 7 is 343, which is kind of a fun number. 8 times 8 times 8, I don't remember, so I'm going to check that on my calculator. Same thing with 9 times, I think it's 729, but I'm going to check just to be sure. And 10 times 10 times 10 is a 1 with 1, 2, 3 zeros. Okay, let's check 8 cubed and 9 cubed in our calculator. So 9 cubed I already did, that is 729. And let's do 8 cubed. You could either type in 8 times 8 times 8, which equals 512, or you could type in 8 and then find your exponent button. Sometimes it's like it looks like a little carrot or a little house. 512. Okay. Alrighty. So the ones you should memorize are you should know at least the first 12 perfect squares. If you already know the first 12, challenge yourself a little bit and get 3 more. If you know, I think this is funny that it says prefect, but it's perfect cubes, know the first 5. That's pretty easy, just 5 more numbers to memorize. So on your next page in your notes, if you have printed these off, it has the list again. I would recommend that you fill in as many as you can figure out yourself. Just figure out what the number is. You don't have to write the whole multiplication problem. But I know 1 squared is 1 and 1 cubed is 1. Fill out them as much as yourself and then go back and check the numbers that you missed. And then you'll be well on your way to memorizing them.